Today on Midlife Moto Garage, we're tackling the wind. This is Project Pumpkin Spice, my ongoing attempt to take this mostly stock Speed Twin 1200 RS and turn it into something that I love and that I can ride comfortably. Because listen, speed is awesome, but comfort is what keeps you riding in the long haul. Here in episode 3, we're not adding horsepower. We're not making the bike significantly more attractive. We're actually probably making it a little bit less attractive. Today, we're gonna make 2 smart upgrades to help with the ergonomics of the bike. Number 1, we're gonna be adding a set of Motone Up-And-Over bar risers. That's gonna pull the bars up and back 1 inch. It's basically gonna put them in the stock Speed Twin 1200 non-RS location. The other modification we're gonna be tackling today is the installation of an MRA Vario-Screen VNB windshield. Yes, a windshield. Not the most beautiful thing on the planet, but I think I got the best looking one that I could possibly find. Bonus is, it's smoked black on the bottom, which will cover up everybody's least favorite gauge pod. The point of the Motone risers is to bring the bars up and a little bit closer to the rider. And in doing so, it will move the rider a little bit further away from a chiropractor appointment. And the windscreen, although may not be the most attractive thing in the looks department, we can argue that in the comments down below, it really is gonna provide serious levels of protection on longer rides from the wind. Because fighting the wind at highway speeds is only fun when you're 25. And I'm not. Today's mods aren't flashy and they aren't gonna get you any Instagram cred, but they are practical and they're gonna make the bike fit its rider a little bit better. So stick around while we ruin the looks of the bike and make it a little bit more comfortable. Hey, how's it going? So we're gonna get started on these Motone risers. But in order to do so, the first thing we need to do is release these 2 Allens. They're 5mm head hex bolts, and those are holding on the little wire management cage for all of the cables and wires going up to the handlebars. We need to remove them so that we can gain access to the little, I believe it's a 13, maybe it's a 14mm bolt under the triple tree, the top yoke here, to release the risers. So let's make it happen. Now that we've removed that little Allen that holds in the wire management tray here, we have access to the 14mm bolt head that holds the risers into the top yoke. So what we want to do is we just want to crack them loose now, because it'll be much easier while the top assembly is tight to crack them loose underneath. Then we can remove the handlebar top assembly and then we can swap the risers. So we're gonna go ahead and do that now. Keep in mind, everything I do on this one side of the bike, we're gonna be repeating on the other side, and I'm not gonna show it to you because it's identical. And there we go, all loosened up. Now just repeat the process on the other side. Now that we have our risers loosened from underneath, we're gonna loosen the 4 bolts, Allen head screws. That's gonna be a 6mm Allen that clamp the top clamp of the risers to the lower standoff portion of the risers. We're gonna loosen these in a crisscross pattern because we don't wanna loosen one side before we do the other, or tighten, because we want to have even torque on the bars when we are all said and done. All right, now they are loose and ready to release. As you can see, they kind of slump down. So now I'm going to use my electric ratchet to finish loosening these up. Okay, so now our top clamp is able to be removed and set aside. Now, our bars, we want to make sure that we do not flip our master cylinder upside down, and we support our bars somehow. So I'm just going to do this in the worst way possible. There we go. And we've got that somewhat snugged up, and we're going to repeat it for the other side. And of course we dropped the hardware, but we don't need that hardware, which is the great part about this section. But then we do drop the hardware that we actually do need, so we're going to go grab that. And there we go. Got a little bit of thread engagement. Things are good. Okay, so now that we've got the risers swapped out, we are going to remove the 4 Allen bolts the same way as we did with the stock clamp from the Motone risers, and insert the bars and tighten it back down. We're going to get this mostly snugged up on top. Then we're going to go underneath and finish torquing the bolts that hold the risers to the stem. Just going to get this snugged up a little tiny bit more. Just so there isn't so much free play. Okay. Now we're going to take our bars and we're going to wiggle them onto the new risers. Perfect. Get them nice and centered. And then we're going to pop one of our bar clamps on, so these things don't fall off while we're standing here. Now we're going to get our bars aligned properly, which is going to be perfectly centered, lining up that little plus with the edge. And let's get a little bit of snugging going on. All right. Nice and snugged up, not quite tight. Now let's get that done on the other side. All right. Loving it. Now that we've got these risers loosely installed and the bars correctly aligned, we're going to take the opportunity now to clean up the workspace and to torque our two 14mm bolt heads from underneath to the factory torque spec of 38 Newton meters. Once we've got them correctly torqued, then we're going to move in a crisscross pattern and we're going to tighten the 4 clamp bolts to the factory torque spec of 25 Newton meters. And there you have it, 38 Newton meters on the riser connections. Now we're gonna torque these with the 6mm Allen to 25 Newton meters, and this part of the job will be wrapped up. .25 Newton meters. All right. Oh, did we knock our camera out of? We sure did. Well, that's great. Anyway, we're gonna tighten these 4 to 25 Newton meters. But we're gonna do it in stages. I'm taking all 4 bolts up to 15 Newton meters. Okay, now in the same crisscross pattern, I'm gonna take all 4 bolts up to the torque spec of 25 Newton meters. And there you have it. Risers are now installed and the bike looks like it's gonna be a lot more comfortable for me. Now let's go ahead and get that windscreen installed as well. Okay, now that we've taken care of our handlebar risers and the bike is a little bit more comfortable, the next thing we're gonna take on is the wind. So we've set up this very scientific demonstration to show you exactly how punishing the wind can be on a naked bike at highway speeds. That's not a lot of fun at all. Of course, first and foremost in the kit are the 2 pieces of the screen itself. This is the base of the screen, and as you can see here, it is entirely black on the bottom, so that'll cover up any mess you've got going on at the front of your bike. And then it's got this kind of dot matrix pattern that goes into a clear screen above. There's 2 channels cut, and that's the Vario portion of the screen. And then there's the 2 attachment holes for the mounting kit. The upper part of the screen includes 2 brackets that will slide up and down, of course, inside of the opening. You've got the 2 ball joint extension rods that are going to mount the screen to your bars. The bar clamps themselves, some offset brackets so that you can adapt the bar clamps to any angle that the rods happen to come in at. And then you've got your associated hardware and cool little caps to make sure that the bars don't ever stab you. So as per the incredibly German instructions from the MRA screen, the first thing we need to do is take these arms that have little ball joints in them. That's what controls the angle that we can mount the screen at. And we are going to put some lateral bolts through them, not tight, but those will be what hold the angle of the screen once we're complete. So that's gonna be our first item. And as you can see, the interior of the bracket has a hexagonal shaped hole so that we can add the hex nut and it'll stay captive. So we're just gonna grab 2 of the hex nuts from our kit, flip it over, drop the 2 bolts in, and then we're gonna go ahead and tighten up with what looks like a 4mm Allen. Now we've got them slightly snugged. Just enough that we feel some thread engagement. We're not actually tightening. So that one is ready to go. We're gonna repeat that process here. And I'll bet I'm gonna speed this up because this is boring. Okay, a little bit of tension. So those are both done. Now we are going to attach these ball joint assemblies to the base part of the windshield. Now, I don't believe they have a up or down facing, but for my liking, I'm gonna put the hex heads of the bolts to the exterior of the bike for adjustment later. Same procedure, we're just gonna drop some nuts in there. We're gonna make sure they don't fall out. We're going to hold them to the screen, and then we've got these backing plates that go on the exterior of the screen that clean everything up and make it look great. And then we're just going to attach 2 bolts through there. Now this, I believe, is going to be a 3mm Allen to make things more fun. Okay, we've got a little tension on that bolt, and let's grab our second one, and we're gonna do the exact same thing. Now these we can snug pretty much all the way because these are going to be final tight. There's no other adjustment necessary here after we attach these to the screen. And there we go. We've got our cover plate here and our 3mm hex head bolts, and we kept our hex head lateral bolts through the side, exposed on the right. We're gonna repeat that process one more time. Oh, look at that, I can use that to stand it up. First thing we're gonna do is preload 2 hex nuts into the bracket. Okay, cover those up with our fingers. And then we're gonna come around to the front of the screen with the cover plate, line up our holes, line up our cover plate, and then grab our 2 bolts and get everything assembled loosely. Now we are going to final tighten those. They say firmly, but there really is no specification. So now we have 2 ball joints assembled that can still move, and they are ready to mate up with some mounting brackets that we are going to add to the handlebars. The bar clamps are a clever little device. Now they have inserts depending on what diameter your handlebars are. Now our bars are the smallest diameter, so we're going to be using the insert. And these wrap around the bar, and then they will take a hex nut in one side, and they will take the rod clamp on the top side, and then one bolt will go through and hold it all together. Now that we've attached the ball joint rods to the bottom section of the screen, we're going to take this opportunity to install the top half of the screen, the Vario-Screen portion, now. So that's very simple. That's going to have 2 bolts that go through the 2 slots in the shield. And as soon as you've got those through, going to flip over and put the rubber vibration isolating washers on those screws first. All right, now the Vario-Screen is assembled and ready to go fit onto the bike. Back over at the bike, and we're going to test fit the MRA windscreen. We've already got our strut rods, or little ball joint rods, installed onto the screen. And we're going to have it sit just about a ½ inch off the top of the headlight, just a bit upward. And we are going to have it connect to its clamps on the bars here. So all we have to do now is install the clamp, the bar clamps, and then the interfacing clamps. That all happens all at once. Then we're going to slide the windshield on, tighten everything up. So we're gonna spread the clamps open. You'll notice in the instruction manual, it says that these inserts, if we're using the inserts, which we are, there is a flat part to the insert, and that flat part needs to line up precisely with the hinge of the handlebar clamp. So we're going to wrap the insert around the bars first. Then we are going to wrap the clamp around the insert, which is going to then give us a spot for our ball joint rod to attach. So we are going to preload a nut into the bottom of the handlebar clamp, and we are going to put a little bit of tension with a 5mm Allen, just so that it doesn't fall apart on us. All right, and one is on. We're gonna repeat that process here on the other side. And there we go. Let's grab that screen. Oh boy, is that cool. Now, MRA says to align the angle of the windscreen approximately to the angle of the fork tubes. So I'm just gonna measure that really quickly. Now, this isn't perfectly accurate at the moment, but it is enough for me to set two different things to the same angle. I think we're gonna use our eyes, if I'm gonna be honest with you. That is right where I want it to live. I'm gonna use my finger underneath as the spacer to get us, you know, approximately 1/2 inch off the headlight. The logo is centered and everything looks great from every angle. So we're just gonna go ahead and put some tension on these connecting bolts. See how things go. Perfect, exactly what we wanted. Let's get back to our spacing under here. Looking good. Final thing to do is going to be to tighten the lateral bolts on the ball joints, and that's going to require the 4mm Allen. Remember when I said I was gonna do this in such a way that I would make it easy to install the hardware and tighten it? Well, I didn't. I did it backwards on one side. So now I have to struggle instead of being able to use a nice T-handle tool, and I have to use a regular L wrench. But either way, we're gonna get it tightened up. Now that the install is complete and we've tightened everything up, we're now installing these little baby rod end covers, and then we are going to install these little bolt head covers so we don't have to look at the shiny silver bolts. There's also a cover for underneath, which we're gonna do now. Nice and finished. We're gonna repeat that for the other side, and that install's done. The installation of the MRA Vario-Screen is complete, so I'm pretty sure you all know what that means. I would say it's at least a 1,000,000% improvement in wind on my face and on my hair, and I am excited to try this thing out on the street. So chapter 3 is wrapped up. Not only have we improved the ergonomics of our bike by adding the Motone Up-And-Over risers, we have also improved the manageability of the bike at highway speeds with the MRA Vario-Screen. So some people might say that these are old man mods. Yeah, kinda, right? I'm not 25. I don't want to be tucked in like I'm riding a super bike. I want to be a little bit more comfortable on the road. And I also don't want the wind blast to destroy me while I'm being a little bit more comfortable on the road. So this has been another episode of Midlife Moto Garage, and thanks so much for coming along on this ride with me. And as always, wrench, regret, repeat. We'll see you on the next one.